Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Going to talk about money today and how close we are to them, moving us past the point of no return, which we probably already have been there. But I'm speaking more specifically when it comes to the whole digital world and stuff. I do want to mention that my podcast that I recorded yesterday is now up. So if you listen to podcasts, you can go out and listen to it. I think it's a pretty good one. I was busy yesterday. I didn't have any time to do any kind of show prep. It was kind of rush, do stuff, come home, record it just off the cuff, and then rush, and go out and do more things that I had to do. But I think it turned out pretty good. So if you don't mind, go ahead and give it a listen. Also, if you've noticed the video that I put out yesterday morning talking about all this rioting that's going on up in Philadelphia, which had happened again last night. Some liquor store was busted in and a bunch of stuff stolen, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, YouTube doesn't like that video. And so they gave me a notice this morning that I'm under an age restriction violation. I didn't even know there was such a thing. It's still up, but it's demonetized, and they're not showing it to anyone. I mean, you have to kind of go look for it to find it. So anyways, I had some people say, while I was watching it, the thing changed. Yeah, that's why. You probably just happened to be watching it while they made the switch. So there's that. They're going to do anything they can to restrict folks like you and I. I've heard it from so many people here lately. Big accounts that are being pushed back, whether it's through YouTube or whatever other platform they're on. They're doing everything they can to suppress the truth. Anyway, so a week or so ago, I said that the Bank of International Settlements was testing CBDCs. Now, some of you know who that is, what they are and everything, and others don't. Bank of International Settlements has been dubbed the central bank of central banks. It's really the big boys. It is the bank of the central banks. Not all, but most of the world's big central banks are all party members of this conglomeration of whatever in the world that it is, and that's how they do these cross-border transfers. In other words, that's how money is moved around the world. It's a big deal. When the Bank of International Settlements does something, it's a big deal. Well, they were announcing that they were testing it. Yesterday they announced that they've done with the testing. They tried it out. They did some trial runs, and everything was a success for using central bank digital currencies. They tried it out with like Singapore and France and Switzerland and moving money around the world. That's a huge indicator that we're getting close to it, because whether it's all just for show or not, they're not going to have all these countries, boom, we have central bank digital currencies, if it's not going to work with the Bank of International Settlement system. So now that's out of the way, they can move forward with central bank digital currencies. I spoke with a gentleman last night on the phone who is a board member of a bank, and he's a board member of a bank, and he knows someone else that works for the World Bank. And that particular person he's talking about, I have personally spoken with on a couple occasions, just through some connections. I've been able to meet him. And so he was telling me he told me I have to kind of talk around it, because I can't give out too much information because of his position and stuff. But there was a recent board member meeting, and the meeting was solely focused on central bank digital currencies. And he said, while it wasn't completely unanimous, most of the board members believe that this is happening pretty soon. In fact, several believed that it could happen by the end of the year, or even sooner than that. Now, why do they think this? I don't know. I mean, they're board members of a bank, so you would think that they have a little bit, more on the pulse of what's going on. It could just be speculation, no different than what I'm doing on here every day. So I don't want to necessarily sound the alarm and everybody go do something crazy, but on the other hand, I do want to kind of push you to to be aware of this. Now, this is one of those issues that the digital currency, when I get it, I think most of you understand the seriousness of this. You understand how bad this is and you're worried about it. But on the other hand, it's one of the few issues that you feel completely helpless. You don't know what to do. You don't know, what in the world am I supposed to do with this? And I'll be just blunt with you. There's not a lot of really great answers. And most of the answers for it are just like little temporary band-aids. Mostly because we don't know the full extent of how this is going to happen. Are we going to experience some kind of collapse, banks start failing, a bank bail-in? I talked about that yesterday in the podcast. An extended weekend. This is what the FDIC, I believe it was a year ago or so, in one of their meetings, which they broadcast on YouTube, and no one usually watches them, but just happened that someone got some of this and started sharing around, became kind of popular. But in the FDIC board meeting, they were talking about, that there could be an extended bank holiday weekend, 3-4 day weekend. And then over the weekend, something happens and banks start collapsing and closing. And so the banks close their doors. And when they reopen, there's a big bail-in and there's digital currency. And that's actually what they talked about at the the FDIC's board meeting. And so there's more and more in the banking, arena thinking that this could be coming pretty soon. The problem is most people just don't know what in the world we're supposed to do about it. And like I said, there's not a lot. There really isn't. We don't know how it's going to affect. We don't know if it's going to be this transition to where, it's available and then it's more available and there's more encouragement and then finally, you have to do it. Or is it just going to be this overnight thing? You have to because there's no other choice. We don't know. But I think it's pretty fair to say that it's moving very rapidly that direction. The vast majority, like 90+% of the world's current nations, are working towards central bank digital currencies. You can sit there and say all you want that, well, Congress needs to approve it. No, they don't. Well, Congress is trying to ban it. It's not a big deal. The United States, playing devil's advocate, is not going to be able to exist in a modern financial playing field if virtually all the other countries around the world have switched to a digital currency and we're the only ones that haven't. It's just, I don't like the idea either, but it has to happen for things to progress. So it's going to happen. There's not a lot of good options here. There are gold-backed banks. There's one gold-backed bank in the country, and I can tell you that they are exploding with customers. I mean, they've just, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like they've just about doubled in size in the last year. You should go and check them out. I get no benefit from promoting them. I do have an account with them, and it's worked great for me so far. I've not seen any big hiccups. It doesn't completely replace all the services of a traditional bank, but it is definitely a good way to secure your wealth. You're not going to send in your physical gold and silver to them. That's not what it's for. You should have physical in your hand gold and silver. This is replacing the Federal Reserve currencies that's in your bank, the ones and zeros. It's replacing that. You can go to UPMA.org and find out more about them. And I'm not here to commercially promote them. It's a good deal. Gold-backed IRAs, that's another way. But I think most people agree that these are just kind of temporary fixes, most likely. What else is there? Well, like I said, having some type of physical currency, real currency. Gold and silver is one of those. And then other things to barter and trade. But in the end, there's only so much we can do. That's why I've advocated for years now that you need to get out of the cities. You need to get to a place where if it was really, really, really bad, you could survive just on the land itself. You need to do that, and then find others that are like you. Why that's so important is if we go through a scenario that looks like it could be likely with this, we may have to, as much as some of you just are so resistant to this, we may have to resort back to more primitive ways of surviving and bartering and commerce with each other. This is moving forward, and it's going to radically change everything. I've said that once digital currency is in place, that's like end game. Some don't agree with me on that. That's fine. You have that right to. But I think it's end game. You know, we wouldn't be able to do anything without it being completely and absolutely monitored. Every aspect of our life. It'd be like having a federal agent just walking around with you, monitoring everything you do. This is coming at us, and while it may not necessarily happen by the end of the year, I think there's a possible chance. I think there's definitely a possible chance we could see it by the end of the year. But most definitely, I would say over the next 18 months, we're going to see more and more of a transition. What I have been doing online when I'm searching for news is searching information about, you know, the latest updates on central bank digital currencies. And what I'm finding is that no one's talking about it. It's not something that's trending on Twitter. It's not something that anyone's talking about. And so it's hard to find that news without digging. It's there. There's stuff almost every day being done in the banking sphere that's moving us closer to that day that it happens. But no one's talking about it. And I'd say that's being done for purpose. Whoever controls your money controls your purchasing power. They control you. I mean, you're at that point, you are absolutely slaves to the system. I mean, we really already are, but most definitely, you know, there's ways to kind of work around the system now. Still, I mean, it's difficult, but you can do it. But once that happens, it's done. We are all slaves to a digital world, and that day's coming really soon. And we need to be serious about getting ourselves ready. I wouldn't have a lot in the way of U.S. cash, whether it's in the banks or in some kind of investments or even in your hand. So listening to an interview with Robert Kiyosaki, the guy that wrote the book, what was it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, something like that, billionaire kind of guy. And he says, don't keep your wealth in U.S. currency, U.S. dollars. Either put it offshore or in gold and silver or even bullets and land and beans and rice. I mean, he says all that. And I tend to agree with him. I think you should have probably enough in the bank to pay your bills that you need to pay, and probably, you know, enough cash on hand to get you through a few days worth of craziness. Because if the craziness lasts more than a few days, that U.S. currency is going to start losing its purchasing power pretty quickly. But you got to start doing something. You got to start taking this aspect of the collapse serious, because it will change everything forever. And once it happens, even if you choose to participate in the digital currency world, you won't be able to prep anymore. They're going to monitor everything you purchase. You're not going to be able to go out and buy bulk stuff. You're not going to be able to go buy cases of 5.56 ammo. You're not going to be able to buy 6 months food supply of buckets without them knowing it. They're going to know everything you purchase. And so the whole prepping stuff, well, it just kind of stops at that point. Because if they know every little detail that you purchase and very possibly will be restricting that, then it's done. So you better make sure you're ready, at least with your supplies, before that day happens. Because once it does, they're going to know everything you have, and maybe not immediately, but at some point, they're going to be restricting what you can purchase and how much you can purchase of it. So if you're not stocked up and ready by the time that digital currency comes along, I don't know what to tell you. It's not going to be a good day for us. You need to be getting your houses in order. You need to be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.